I mean, it's my favorite thing to do for a living. The sky's the limits as far as I'm concerned when it comes to cereal and marshmallows and melted butter. I'm Christina Tosi. I'm 42 years young. I'm the chef and founder of Milk Bar, and this is the secret to my success. Milk Bar is a quirky American-style bakery that's all about making people happy with dessert. Baking was a really big part of my upbringing. We didn't bake to be fancy. We baked because it was just something we did. It was our conduit, our pipeline to community, to togetherness, to sharing. My first restaurant job wasn't until I went to college. I became obsessed with the idea of working in a restaurant, and I went one day with a resume that had nothing on it except for running my mom's shredding room at her accounting office and applied to be a hostess. And from there, in the world of food, I was hooked. I was 18, but I was like, I'm behind. So I had this idea, I'm gonna move to New York City, I'm gonna go to culinary school by day, I'm gonna work in restaurants by night. I went to the French Culinary Institute on Broadway and Grand, which is now the International Culinary Center. And so Monday through Friday, from 7 or 8 a.m. until 3:30 or 4 p.m. nonstop, in the classroom, baking, getting the tactical work of classroom pastry arts. And then right after school, bring my baked goods, hand them to someone on the street, and go into a restaurant and work by night. I got my first real pastry job at Bouley. I worked at Bouley for a year and a half. It's really important in your first fine dining restaurant, you gotta give at least a year commitment. But I knew I had so much more and so many more questions about food. So I started working at this crazy boundary crossing restaurant called WD50 in the Lower East Side. I worked there for about a year and a half. And then I met Dave Chang at Momofuku. What drew me in at Momofuku was what Dave was doing with savory food. Fine dining, very similar path to mine. Went to culinary school, cut his teeth at a fine dining establishment, and really sought to democratize savory food. And that for me is what was missing in my experience. I was this very passionate home cook, and I was now this increasingly more skilled pastry chef, pastry cook. And there was no space in between the two. And I really wanted to figure out how to bring the sensibility of a plate of brownies to the New York City food scene in a way that made sense, that I thought there was a giant hole. I had this dying love for dessert. I would go home after every day at Momofuku and bake and bring the baked goods in, because that's what you do when you're obsessed with dessert. And they loved dessert, they just didn't think that there was a place for it on the menu. He equal parts dared me and pushed me to put a dessert on the menu at Momofuku-san bar. I made this strawberry shortcake with market tri-star strawberries, small, sweet little gems. I hid it in the middle of the menu where we put all the other market fruits and vegetable dishes, and it sold out the first night, and it sold the second night, it sold the third night. And I started adding a few more things here and there, adding desserts to the other Momofuku restaurants. And before I knew it, I was, I guess, the pastry chef for all the Momofuku restaurants. We didn't have a real established pastry program, so I was doing it out of the basements of whatever restaurant had space. And as I was doing that, the space right next to one of the Momofuku restaurants got a new landlord and came up for lease. Dave and the Momofuku group basically gave Milk Bar its loan to start, to open, to sign the lease, to open operations. Milk Bar shared a little kitchen door with Sambar, so it was kind of a thoroughfare in between the restaurant and the basement, which is where we had all of the restaurants, walk-in coolers and but we were essentially one big family just running two different operations. We opened Milk Bar November 15th, 2008. At the beginning, when I opened Milk Bar with an incredible team of 4, working from doors open 7 a.m., closing time 2 a.m., we were still making all the desserts for all the Momofuku restaurants. And slowly but surely, as our business grew as a Milk Bar bakery, we started slowly training other savory cooks at the different restaurants that were interested in dessert. So separating Milk Bar from Momofuku was always the idea and always part of the plan. From a business standpoint, when you are part of a restaurant group that is known and loved and trusted, to use that, to have the opportunity to use that, for me it was really key to get the Milk Bar business up and running and then to take it and run from there. We don't serve vanilla ice cream because everyone serves vanilla ice cream and life is so much richer than vanilla ice cream. But we do serve an ice cream that's called cereal milk, and it tastes like what it sounds like. It tastes like what's left in your bowl after you eat all the cereal out of it. And that is our vanilla ice cream. We love cake, but come on, most cake is chocolate cake, vanilla frosting. There's so much more. And so we don't frost the sides of our cakes, and we think about everything from a flavor story of apple pie reimagined into a layered cake, strawberry shortcake reimagined into a layered cake. And we let you in to all of this inventive thought, the layers, the textures, the flavor when we build up a layered cake. We do weekly tastings at our R&D kitchen in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Anyone that's a member of Milk Bar is invited to that tasting, which is to say that our financial analyst comes usually once a month. When you taste it, you'll be like, what's up, Tyler? Your input made this thing better. And I really believe in that as a way of working, and that is a big part of Milk Bar's backbone, is that every single person that's a member of our team, past, present, and future, has their fingerprints on the menu, but also how we do what we do, how we show up. So much of Milk Bar's story is about starting, just starting, right? Taking on the lease, using Momofuku as the little springboard, and then bootstrapping it along the way. Like, bakery margins are razor thin. You gotta sell a lot of cookies to pay the rent. But doing things thoughtfully, like doing things on our own, like because I had already been the plumber, the electrician, the general contractor, the health department consultant, so much of building business can also be done by the people that are in the business to start, especially if you don't have the financial resources, which we didn't. Every year at Milk Bar, I think about doubling and tripling down on ourselves. We've raised money to help grow the business over the course of 16 years, but I do think that Milk Bar is what it is, and so much of its fundamentals and the spirit of it, it's so human, and you can sense that it's so human because it was built by the people that are a part of it. And I think that's a really important piece of both our fundraising strategy. I want to be really clear, there was no like business plan or fundraising strategy to start Milk Bar, but for me it was fundamentals. There were things that I learned from my mom in how you make a great business and how you make do when you don't have the financial resources that I applied to Milk Bar and still apply to this day. So in all great business stories, when you don't really have any money to do what you think needs to be done to build a great business, remember that you have everything that you need. People couldn't find the door to Milk Bar because we had this C+D location halfway in the block of a dark street on 13th Street. And I thought, if I can hang a neon sign, something inside that's bright enough, people will see a little bit of light and maybe come down the block and find us. Had no idea that it was going to be the thing that it has become for Taylor Swift and everyone else. You don't need a lot of money to start a great business, but you have to start somewhere, and you start small and you build and you grow from there. My favorite thing about the compost cookie is because it has pretzels and potato chips and ground coffee and chocolate chips and butterscotch chips. Every single bite is an adventure of salty and sweet and moody and joy and. They're just the best.